Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 15th of March to the 22nd of March. First for the video that I thought was not good. I'm sorry, I don't really know this guy very much. The Cinema Cartography, talking about the aesthetic of anime, and I actually had some other people see this video on my TL, which is rare. The Twitter TL doesn't watch YouTube, anime YouTube, so for them to discuss it at all is great. But all of them were just like, yeah, that wasn't great. Because it's like, ooh, big topic, right? And they're using the End of Evangelion poster, yeah, right? Big state, but yeah, they don't really address the title at all. I think if this was something where it's like how anime is very versatile as an aesthetic, and there's a lot of different ways you can go about it, and exploring that in maybe kind of micro examples. This is just anime they like. This was a lot of name dropping and kind of I don't know if grandstanding is the right word, but very much very romantically talking about anime as very, very generally, which is nice. It's fine, but it didn't really do much for me. And not but I don't know how much it would do for much other people, I guess. And unless they're very surface level in in anime, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, there's just something about it. It felt very surface level and okay, sure. There's big chunk. It pretty much is structured as them talk. First of all, they start with it started with mecha anime, and I'm like, it started with way more than that. Because I mean, technically, I hate to be the actually guy, but it didn't actually start with Astro Boy. A lot of people, kind of make assumptions that it starts with Astro. Astro Boy was a huge step, and for one thing, that's not mecha. By the way, it's Astro Boy. He mentioned Astro Boy, and I think that's what he's trying to imply here. But it's not really the same thing as what you're talking about with mecha anime. And he goes with there's super robot and real robot, right? And it's yeah, But for one thing, there's Toei anime. There's Toei's movies from the 50s. I mean, you could go up to 1917. Some people do, some real nerds, or the World War II propaganda movies. That's always a little too far back for me personally. I like kind of talking about commercial, in that way, and not so much I made picture move with Katsudo Shashin, right? Because I like seeing how it develops as a distinctive style with a lot of people working on it. Not like these others didn't have a lot of people working on it. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But I like starting with Toei's films. They seem like a big deal, and that's kind of with a lot of the first gen. Before Gen 0, basically. I don't know, I'm talking out my ass now. That's because it's unscripted, and I'm not trying to make whatever. But that was a little weird to start with. I was like, okay, yeah, mecha. And then, and I was like, I wonder if they're going to talk about magical girls. And then they do at the end of the video, at the very end. And it just kind of ends. That's the other thing. It just kind of they rapid fire a bunch of shows, whether it's the blah 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 of this show, or the blah 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 of this show, or the blah 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 of this show, or the blah 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 of this show. It just kept going, and we're like, it's I guess that's nice. That's nice. It's just doesn't do much for me, or I don't know how much it would do for other audiences. It's maybe it's the first time they've seen these shows, but the people who were probably finding this video and watching it are who are you targeting, right? I don't know. It was weird. Just one thing before I before I forget it, he calls JoJo's Bizarre Adventure a parody of Shonen Jump. Is it? I'd like to open a discussion. Is JoJo's a parody of Shonen Jump? it is itself it is itself published in Shonen Jump. So could it really be a parody if it's published in the same magazine? I don't know. I don't even know if I would call Gintama a parody of Shonen Jump. Like, yeah, it pokes fun at other shonen titles very explicitly. But I don't know. I don't know if I would actually go so far as to say that with JoJo. Yeah, it's bombastic and over the top and ridiculous, but that's kind of the appeal, and it's not like trying to be like, oh, Hokuto no Ken, or like, because that, like, what else is it making fun of when it came out in 1986? Is it making fun of Fist of the North Star? Okay, sure. But like, that's part of the appeal, I thought, or that's part of like the writing, like what's cool about it. Anyway, I don't know. That was a weird comment, and he didn't linger on it, right? He didn't really try to defend it or anything. That's the thing. A lot of the script here was just, and there's no sourcing, obviously. Like, he says Lane is like a huge influence on anime, and I'm like, I love Lane. Let's all love Lane. I'm one of the people that, Lane's kind of a divisive title, but I don't think you can argue it's actually had an impact like that. I don't know. It seems like it was a moderate success. It wasn't like Evangelion, which he does say. And then, like, yes, that is, yes. But like, he talks a lot about Eva, and like, that was like his first big section, and it just sounded like every other Eva thing. So it's like, yep, you're right. Yeah. Or just not so much, yeah, you're right, but like, yeah. In terms of like, oh, it was reflective of the creator's personal life. Uh-huh. Yeah. It's just the stuff we've heard before, right? And it's just kind of like, yeah, I couldn't get into it. It was kind of a chore, unfortunately. I like that he didn't talk like negatively about any of these shows, but this whole thing felt very surface level, I thought. I thought it could have a really cool idea with it really breaking down some aesthetics and stuff, or kind of go chronological or something, because it seemed to start going chronological, and then he just like bounced around a lot to me. Yeah, there was a lot of things about this, but I couldn't. It's also really long. It's just, yeah, I don't know. I think this could have been broken up as like the thing I liked about it, just Evangelion video or Lane video. I don't know. It didn't seem, it seemed very disjointed in that way as well. Anyway, yeah, kind of a wash for me. Sorry about that. Okay, and now for the videos that I thought were decent. They're pretty good. And I'm going to start it with kind of the biggest, coolest thing that happened this week. Gigic's appearance on Just Weebs' podcast with Shock King and Onimaru, talking about, is AniTube broken? And first of all, it's really cool that this happened at all. That like Onimaru was able to reach out to him, kind of shot in the dark, and he responded and willing to go on this podcast. And for him, it was early morning. It was like 9:30 a.m. Well, this is like 9:30 p.m. kind of deal. It's so cool he was able to do this at all, and they went for like 2.5 hours. I think that's awesome. It does show that like, despite Gigic's like kind of withdrawal and like retreat these past few years into more of his circle and like just kind of keeping with his group, he is still willing to be an active member of this community and not try to separate himself. There are some other creators that do that. And power to them, whatever. Like, some people do not want to be associated with the rest of us or don't watch any other stuff. Or like very small, they keep it very, very small, and they just kind of like maybe one other guy that they're kind of like buds with, but a lot of anime YouTubers are like an island, I like the interconnectivity and the communities we're able to build with each other and with our own communities and collaborate with each other and whatnot. So I'm just happy this happened at all. And then that alone kind of puts it on a step above. But, I think I get a lot of people's frustrations with how this turned out. So if you don't know how this happened, it seems kind of out of the blue. I didn't talk about it when it came out because it was just like, yeah, there's a little drama that's happening kind of deal. And I mentioned it on Digest when Gigic's video came out on light novel AI, Pause and Select had kind of a thread of having gripes about it, and then Onimaru brought him out into a podcast, and they did a 3-hour stream. And that's also a very, very good listen. I think you should listen to that first, all of it, and then listen to this one. I think doing that is very valuable, and they both have really great points and perspectives. It can be frustrating, though, because you just kind of, if you've seen both of them, it's like you just wish it was just both of them in the same podcast and talking to each other instead of past one another. And Onimaru is kind of like this weird kind of telephone thing, and they're kind of talking past each other. This was reminding me similar to what happened with Digi shouting, kind of shitting talking a bunch of anime YouTubers out of the blue, and ended up on Weebcast back in the day, with Jeff. Nino was there, Pedantic Romantic was there, Gigic, of course, Subsonic Sparkle for some reason. There were some people that was like, why? No offense to Subspark, sorry, Subsonic Sparkle, but it's some of the array was kind of like all over the place. It was like, okay, huh? It's like, why wasn't like the people that Digi mentioned, or Beatrice now, but Digi at the time, had mentioned like Canipa Effect and RC Anime. But anyway, but back then it was like, they were actually able to talk with each other. But like, I get what Onimaru was trying to do here, where he wanted Gigic to have his piece on it and not try to like, it didn't want it to be like an interrogation, gang up on him sort of deal. You just want to have an open conversation, and I think Onimaru did a good job steering conversations and asking questions. I was hesitating to say tough questions, because he would ask a question, and then him and Shocking would both kind of soften the blow and give more context. But it was frustrating where it's like, a lot of this I was like, man, I wish Joe was on there to really be out being like, hey, I'm not trying to say AniTube should be more of an academic space, which I think Gigic towards the end of this was implying that Joe was advocating for, and he actively wasn't. And I don't remember if Onimaru and Shocking really pushed back on that. I don't think they did, though. So that was unfortunate, because that's a really key point, I think, that Joe makes. And it's better to understand where both of them are coming from. But they really do feel like they're talking past each other in these instances. I think the points themselves are great, but then the interconnect, making additive, and I don't know, I think better results could have happened with the two of them together, I guess. If it happens a third time, I don't know, but like, one's already great, I'm just happy this happened at all, basically. Yeah, but like, I get the people's frustrations with the results of this, like kind of the outcome of this particular live stream. But I think what Gigic was saying about smaller creators taking this seriously and like wondering why they're not being as successful or growth or anything, and him having certain ideas and but then like I was on the other side for most of this live stream in terms of hearing the other person. Like, I was on a voice call with Joe and a few other people, and we're all watching this, and every time there's a point and everything, they're just like, there's things and there's frustrations and things, and like, yeah, it is what it is. you can't oh well, but one of the things I think he mentions is like, well, why don't you give him a platform? Why don't you shout him out? Why don't you give them a boost in a way? And for one thing, I know Gigic's done that already. It's not like he's never done that before. He did put at least Pause and Select, but other people as well, in this AniTube Rewind video he did. I don't know if it's still up, but that'd be a throwback. I'd love to, because there was a fucking unreal moment where there was a sequence of like Anime Snob coming out of the grave with like Daily Motion. Like, he had that was the year where like Snob's channel went down and he had to go on Daily Motion for a long time. So he ended up becoming like the #1 anime channel on Daily Motion. It was crazy, dude. What good times. Nostalgia. But I remember he did shout out Pause and Select in that moment. But so it's not like he's never done that before. But secondly, I get that Gigix trying to be more protective, based on his experiences with this other, his past, not trying to leak some private discussions I've had with people about certain things that have happened before in the past. I get being protective in that way. And also, yeah, there's other examples on YouTube in general, like with PewDiePie doing that shout out thing, ended up having a really bad, really, really nasty, crazy, stupid shit. I get being, whatever. Oh, and also like they also like they shouted out a number of some people on trash tasting, including myself in this show, which is like really awesome. And I'm really grateful for that. It had a boost. It wasn't amazing, but that's okay. I was happy it wasn't ridiculous. Like there was a video that Beatrice, formerly Digi, had on her channel not way back, but like maybe like a year or two ago. And it was one of those big kind of like, I think I talked about it on Digest, but obviously it's probably privated by now, and I don't know anyone who's archived this particular one. But it was a longer kind of weird vlog type video, very long, on her main channel. And she talked about the kind of the struggle, like she had discovered KYDB as well as Don Jolly? I forget his name. Sorry. It was a particular creator that she really liked, but she was having reservations about really heavily promoting them on her channel in case they didn't want her particular fans to swarm their channel and overwhelm them. I think there is a genuine concern about that. I think it's possible. It's like, do you really want Gigix audience? Do you really want their audience? That's the thing. Do you really want to get this big? It's not like altogether there are benefits, but like, it's sort of a big floodgate, and you want to be careful about that. You might not be able to handle it, or you might not like. You could probably handle it, but you would have no choice, sort of deal. But like, it's just not going to be fun, and it would kind of sour your experience. Maybe there's potential for that. I mean, I'm just reflecting my own experiences with having two vids kind of run away and blow up, and like, I don't like the reception those vids, some of the vids can get and stuff when they get that big. Only when they get that big. When it's like steady and they grow like 30,000 over like 2 years, that's nice. And like, you only get certain comments that are like that people actually care. I don't know. Yeah, I don't really, but that's my own personal weird perspective about it. Yeah, I think overall Onimaru did a good job here, and Shocking was a good co-host as well. I think they both had a good banter with Gigik and made him feel welcome. There's this really delicate line between being overly cordial, to where the guest, you're just kind of sucking off the guest or whatever, and making it an interrogation and making them feel kind of unwelcome. And I'm very glad they ended up leaning too far in that other direction of like being overly nice. I don't think they went so far as to suck him off or whatever, but like, they were very nice and welcoming, cordial and stuff, and grateful. I wouldn't want what some of these other people I was on this particular call with, I wouldn't want the kind of hostility in that particular way. But yeah, there's more to this conversation obviously, but like, that's kind of my piece about it, I guess. I'm just glad it really happened, but I get it wasn't the most satisfying thing for some people. I happened to catch this on the TL. Bill Conway came out with this video, and I never heard of this guy. The Moments That Hook Us, Beck Mongolian Chop Squad. And it's a shorter video just about kind of one particular scene that really is a striking moment that really turns around and, again, hooks you into Beck. So this guy has only made 3 other videos, and only just became active again after like 5 years. Like, the first video is 6 years ago, then it's 5 years ago, and then it's like 2 months ago, and now it's this video. I'm like, wow. So that's cool. I thought this was nice. It doesn't do anything too fancy or anything, and It's just kind of a small thing, a little dissection of this particular moment. And this is I wanted to mention it only because it's the kind of content I really want to make myself. Actually, something that's just kind of like, here's a thing, and it doesn't have to have too much like pomp and circumstance behind it, and a lot of like meaning, you know, additive content. Kind of I get kind of carried away with my own content personally. Not like this isn't like wholly unadditive, right? I just mean it's not really gunning for that, and I like that perspective from this. And you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Beck, but yeah, I thought this was a good analysis of that particular. Seems like episode 5 when he first starts playing guitar. Pretty good. Yeah, I liked it. Checked out BobSamurai's latest review on Romeo's Blue Skies, the best forgotten anime. And yeah, I've seen the show around on people's favorites. Apparently it's popular in other foreign countries besides the US. I don't think it's ever been released here in the United States legally. But he gave it a 10 out of 10. Dang. I don't know if he really sold like thorough. Like, I was surprised when he said 10 out of 10 based on like the content of the review. But I was sold for sure in terms of what he was showing, and his descriptions of it was really interesting. It seems like a really well-made 90s Ian Akiko, like Nobody's Boy Remedy. It's not as like, it's not Dazaki, but it's similar as in like the content is really strong and like a full adaptation, like a full story kind of deal. Yeah, and only 33 episodes too. I was disappointed to hear that, like, at least in some comments and stuff, where they were like, yeah, it's like high, it's kind of like a Kage no An, where like I hear really good things about it, but it's 50 episodes. It's like, that's not too bad. Like, geez, there's shows with double the length, or quadruple the length. You know, man, oh, whatever. But I get 33 episodes is certainly kind of an appeal. Like, ooh, only 33? Certainly interesting. But yeah, I like the review. It was nice. I did check out sydsnap's video on I Like Ugly Bastard Hentai, and I'm not sorry. It definitely seems more like kind of a I have to clarify my tweet sort of video, and it doesn't feel like a wholly amazing kind of thing. And I think like a third of the video was this Boxu sponsorship. But yeah, so like the video doesn't have too much going on for me. But I think the substantive arguments she's actually making about ugly bastards don't feel like actual jokes. They actually feel very thought out. For example, like the idea that the MCs in hentai normally, they all look the same and they all act the same, and it's boring in that way. But ugly bastards actually have characterization to them, and they have drive, and they actually kind of look different from each other, and they feel like actual characters. So I thought that was actually a really good observation. Not that I've seen any hentai. I really don't. This is completely unknown territory for me. But when she points it out like that, and like, oh, you know, that does make sense. And it's like, it's not like she's like attracted to it in that way. I think she's more talking about like the device of the character in these hentai anime, whereas a lot of people kind of see them as a turnoff, like, oh, another an ugly bastard, how gross, kind of deal. And she's like, well, it's not real. It's like, I'm not attracted to it in that way, or like a lot of the kind of some of the weirder tropes that come with it. But I think like the effort that gets put into them on a narrative artistic level is interesting. So I like the perspective here, and I like how unabashed she's usually like this, and I kind of expected a video like this. But yeah, I liked it. It was cool. Princess Plunderphonics. Been a while since I talked about their channel. Ombu is a brapper. Moto Majidorimi episode 40 review, talking about the Sweet Potatoes episode, one of the big fan favorite episodes, and certainly for me too. It's always screen capped all the time. But it's funny in its own right too, and this is a pretty thorough review of the episode, and I like that a lot of the tangents that Plunderphonics goes through. And like some like a lot of the rants and tangents, and kind of seems like a very angry individual. But also very passionate about this particular episode in this series. I've not like been following super avidly on their content, but it seems like kind of a new format for them, and they've been wanting to talk about this show actively like this for a while, which is cool. I like the OC. I also kind of like the narrative divide, like the big kind of angry rant at the beginning about how farts shouldn't be should be destigmatized in everything, and that's kind of a fun thing too. Yeah, I thought it was pretty thorough and pretty fun. I liked it. Again, with like the reviews and stuff, I think like you can get really kind of like, oh, kind of fatigued with like the details, like the actual meat and stuff. But it's always the presentation and the form of these reviews that make it enjoyable for me, especially if content I've already seen, right? Or talked about. So I think the form here, the very slapdash and chaotic form that this review is taking, is what makes it really interesting to watch. So I liked the video. It was good. And I did watch Anime Tier List from Penguin Zero, otherwise known as Mr. Critical. Or not Mr. Critical. Yeah, Critical. I guess just Critical. Or Charlie. He did this stream, and this is just a stream archive basically, but it's edited. It's edited in so much because he goes through the highest rated anime on my anime list and goes through down to the 2000s or so, where it's ranked at like 6.9 or 6.8 or something, and went through all of them to check and make a list basically of anime he's seen and make like a tier list of sorts. But it was a lot of effort. It would have been a ton of effort to like save each file and then make it in the tier list and stuff. So what he did was rank them like 10 as an S tier, 9 as an A tier, B tier, C tier, so on. And that also meant that like F tier was a 5 out of 10. So it's a super overly positive. That's just his rating system, and that's fine. But I thought that was funny and interesting. He's only ever seen, he really looked through and he's like, yeah, I don't think I've seen any others. 75 completed anime. That's surprising to me. But it was fun to see kind of like the stuff he has seen, right? And that was cool. A lot of all the shonens and stuff like that, and he had some hot takes and whatever. I liked that he gave Casher Sins a 10, like an S tier. That was cool to see. I was surprised he saw that. Like that seems like kind of random for someone who seems to have only seen this many shows. That seems like kind of a fairly deep cut. But that was cool, and he actually really liked it, and was talking about it in ways like, yeah, he has seen it, kind of deal. Not like I would assume he's lying or something, but it wasn't hollow praise basically, and that we're just like, oh, I watched this when I was a kid, I don't remember anything but S tier. You know what I mean? He actually seemed to recall it and was like, yeah, it's great. So that was nice to see. Didn't like Monster, unfortunately, but what can you do? You don't get super upset about people's scores or whatever. But one thing also, it was funny how he would give like a lot of these longer shonen a lower rating because of their ending or like something that happens later on. But then like Demon Slayer S tier or like A tier or something, like high praise. I think he also gave Jujutsu Kaisen an S tier. Like, wow. It's like, it's not done yet. It could very well, like, it is, there's nothing stopping it from following in the same path as like Seven Deadly Sins. Because everyone was hyping. He mentions it in the stream. Where it was like, oh, it's funny. Everyone was hyping this show up just like Jujutsu Kaisen when this first came out. And look at it now. Yeah, that can happen. Huh, interesting. So it's like, maybe you should wait for it to be done. Anyway. And like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, we should, whatever. He was rating like the entire series of some of these and not even caring what entry some of these were representing. Like, he was not rating these on individual seasons. He would be rating them as a whole, which is fine. I don't think that's a bad way to, although it certainly doesn't, it erases some of the nuance that he was saying on the stream where it's like, oh, the first season was okay, and then this and then that kind of deal. Yeah, but like, nuance in numerical scores. Ridiculous. No such thing. Personally, that's okay. Um, that's why I like the face rating system. 4 ratings, so it's so vague in general. People aren't gonna complain about it. You gave this a 6? It's a 7. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Anyway, yeah, but that was fun. That was cool to see. Also, just such a high profile creator on the platform right now. He's doing great. Just normalizing anime in that way and being like, yeah, anime's cool. Oh, this show's great. You know, I like seeing that with PewDiePie as well, and him being like, oh, I was watching Food Wars. It's fun. You know, it's like, I don't like Food Wars, but that's cool. Like, I like that. I'm happy about that. Yeah, that little things like that really do go a ways of normalizing liking anime and stuff, because it's still kind of a stigma. It's certainly become far less of a stigma than it was in the 2000s and the 90s, where like I was being like, my boss was telling me about how when Grave of the Fireflies came out and it was getting localized over here, they had to like really make an effort to get people to like watch this movie, because the people were like, why would I want to watch the bad guys getting why would I take sympathy with the Japanese of World War II when they tried to bomb when they were our enemy? What? Like, that's crazy for me to think about, at least. I don't know if any of you feel, but like, are you kidding? Like, and you can think of Grave of the Fireflies whatever you want, but like, just that idea of like, people were not willing to watch this movie because it was like making the Japanese sympathetic. That's bizarre. That's crazy. It's like, can you imagine if people actually knew that some of these anime that they watched when they were kids were made in Japan? Can you imagine? Like, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. Anyway, to me at least. So we've come a long way, I think. But like, things like this are great to see as like a normalization type of thing. Anyway, yeah. Okay, and what I thought were the best videos of the week, and I've probably talked about this this channel before, but Toadette-IAD uploads entire episodes of Manga Nippon Mukashi Banashi and other random episodes of other stuff, from also things that aren't anime, but just animations in general, with English subtitles. The whole thing is that like, these are episodes with English subs now. And so if you don't know, Manga Nippon Mukashi Banashi is a whole series. They're 10-minute episodes, but there's 1,400 episodes. There's a lot. And this particular one is just adapting a lot of Japanese folktales specifically. But then Manga Sekai, which is the series I made a bunch of AMVs on back in December, that's taking a lot of world stories, like stories from all of fictional, like fairy tales and stuff from all over the world. But anyway, so this is cool, and I'm mentioning this particular one because this episode that I linked in the description was directed by Osamu Dezaki. That's kind of the cool thing with this show. Had so much talent on it, and a lot of them were like sharpening their skills on series like this. And it's really cool seeing like a Kawajiri episode from the, I don't know so they dumped like 3 episodes, I think, on their channel this week from this series. One of them is from Gisabu Usugi, and then this one's Osamu Dezaki, and the other one's from someone else. I don't quite remember. But it's basically, they're just subbing episodes that they're interested in, and things are like, oh, this is really cool. And I certainly would do that if I was working on Manga Sekai, because there's some episode, like there's choice episodes that you want to see and want to show people with subtitles. But a lot of the Manga Sekai specific, I can't speak on Manga Nippon, but Manga Sekai, it's 100 episodes, like 120 or something. Not all of them are bangers. I'm sorry. The ones that are bangers, but not all of them. It's okay though. It's okay. But what I was saying was like, it's really cool to see people like Yoshiaki Kawajiri so early, before they came onto the scene with their really big, with like Wicked City, right? With the titles that we know them for. It's not like they just kind of came out of nowhere. They worked their way through the industry, and it's not like Osamu Dezaki just kind of showed up with Ashino Joe 1. He had several really good Astro Boy episodes that I've seen and are really cool. And you can kind of tell there's someone really specific behind it, really putting some good shit in. And I love that. I love finding that stuff. So this is really cool, nerdy, and whatever. But the story itself is really cute. It has a good. It has some dramatic stuff actually, and some some kind of cool moments and stuff. Despite mostly being very lighthearted and kind of whimsical, whatever. I liked it a good deal, and I'm very happy it's getting subtitled. Thank you, Toadette. Yeah, that was great. It's Canipa Effect once again. Definitely one of my favorites because he really is just every single, like, without fail, is bringing you really additive, interesting information about relevant topics. That's the other really good thing about it, and really talk about Attack on Titan. I will say, I don't know if this was quite the right time to do it. I wish he waited for it to be over because we don't know what's going to happen with this final season, whether they're going to do another season because they're not finished adapting all of it, right? In this season that they're airing right now. We don't know if there's going to be another TV series or if it's going to be a movie or what. I kind of hope it's a movie personally. But I feel like there's just more to this story personally that I think he could have waited a couple months on, but I get it, it's a hot topic now. But what there is here, covering these 4 particular from season 1 to season 4, really charting what the motivations were behind animating it to begin with, of like, no, they really only wanted to do the 1 season so that they could show off themselves as a studio and do some high effort, really elaborate stuff, specifically stuff like Cabaneri of the Iron Fortress or Seraph at the End or whatever, or Vinland Saga, right? And it's like very, very high quality things that ultimately I'm not totally sold on that on the idea, on the premise, but like I guess is like my personal thing about it with like IG still makes great stuff. Like Run with the Wind in 2017, Mahojin Guru Guru in 2017, or no, sorry, Run with the Wind was 2018, and Mahojin Guru Guru in 2017. Like they're still a very versatile, active, great studio. I don't know why they have. Yeah, sure, I guess. But Canipa really goes through like George Wada and Araki and character designer in particular, and the advantages of the first season, and really selling you on the idea. Actually, it was like, wow, this is a lot of cool stuff about the first season that I took for granted as a dumb fan in 2013 when all of us watched this. Right? I don't think very many of us have rewatched Attack on Titan, and it's been 8 years since then. So something to think about, honestly. And the idea of like why they took 4 years in between productions because they planned everything in advance and they were never anticipating to make a second season, which is nuts, which is funny, right? Or just like because everyone was like, where is it, right? And we're just kind of just waiting for it to happen, sort of deal. We're just lucky that like it actually was popular and successful, so they actually did other things and exhausted all their options before finally making a season 2 kind of deal, which is interesting. But then, talking about season 4 and kind of the weird thing about that, there's one thing I'm noticing from this video that I wasn't too much of a fan of kind of like the lows of it being the fact that it doesn't, he was saying like, animation is to these, I don't know the exact term he said, but basically it was like animation is to this where acting is to film. So like if it's not animated, it's like they're not acting in a film, which is like so core fundamental. And like me as a Dezaki fan kind of really took offense to that. Like you can still make this stuff incredibly compelling if you shoot it, if you like if you do storyboarding in a compelling manner, or use effective sound, or any of the other things that Dezaki did that was not directly good animation, but like was able to make it still equally compelling and stuff. Like that was such a weird comment, or just like a weird in what is it? What's the word? Insinuation, I guess. Where it's like if it's not moving, it's a low point. And it's like, yeah, I guess if that's the frame of mind you're going with, but there's way more. I feel like you know this. I don't have to be the one to tell you this. There's way more to anime than just pure animation movement stuff, and it's not the be all end all. No, I don't. There's way more to it. I thought, but it's just that's weird. That was just kind of a weird vibe I got off of it. There's like if it doesn't move, it's bad. Maybe he's not. I don't think he's boiling it down specifically to that, but it really made it feel like those are the low points when it's not moving, kind of deal. And it was like, yeah, I don't know, weird. Maybe I'm overreacting. But that was something kind of caught me off guard personally. But again, well researched, very valuable information, interesting, and happy he said it. Happy he made this, especially of how long and elaborate it was. It was great. Very good video. I'll admit I almost missed out on this one. I am subscribed, but I don't know, just didn't catch it personally. But Hazel put out what's the deal with Grell Sutcliffe, and this is talking about how Grell Sutcliffe is a trans woman, and that's definitely not something that Black Butler fans were really. I certainly didn't know that, or kind of felt that way, but it is kind of by the character's admission, as well as later things by the author of how they talk about the character, and so it's like and so I think Hazel makes a really good argument. You know, it's not even really so much. I hate to call it an argument as if it's something to be debated, right? I'm sorry, you know, I don't want to try to insinuate that. But like it was a good point. I liked it. It was really interesting. But it was good to see just about Black Butler in general, like content stuff. I was a very, very big fan of the show not when it came out, obviously, but like when I saw it when it was on like Netflix for a while. It was one of the first anime I watched. Kind of one of the first opening stages to me liking anime. And Grell was a very bombastic, interesting, fun character that I really enjoyed. And I agree that I think that given the reading and the character's position, even though them being kind of attached to a serial killer inherently kind of makes it as it's playing into the very negative transphobic tropes of them being crazy psychotic people. It does lean into that if you say they are trans women, if Grell's a trans woman. But I think Hazel makes a good argument where it's like it's fun, you know, where it's like this particular character is very energetic and becomes more of a chaotic neutral character, and I think it's fine because it's like, especially with this, I mean, if it was the villain outright, then yeah, maybe it wouldn't be the best. It's like, oh man, not great representation kind of deal. But for them being kind of chaotic neutral, and how being a woman, being a trans woman, like they never really go out. The character never expresses as like I'm a guy, but it's always kind of the author's notes, and there's these other things that are not directly in the show, in the manga or anything besides like I'm an actress, I think was one quote specific. Little bits here and there basically. But none of the because Japanese, because the language doesn't really use third person pronouns like he, she, whatever. There's not that much to see of if they refer to Grell as a guy or a girl. But then Hazel does go into the Funimation dub of like all the characters refer to Grell as a he. But that was there's like kind of logic behind it because they're first presented as a guy, and the voice actor for Grell is also the Seiyu is also a guy. So there's logic behind it. It's like, okay, I see why they did that, you know? And it's also from 2010 where like this was not remotely in anyone's mind at the time. Uh, so yeah, I think that's fair. All the points that Hazel was making. I really liked the video. I thought it was very well researched, thought out, and presented very neatly. With with kind of marinating the manga with the anime, and well researched with looking at what the author has said and various events and things. Plenty of evidence behind this, I think. So I think this is great. I thought it was really good. And the best of the week. Oh my god! If an every anime video comes out, it's gonna be the best. Just is what it is. And there's been so many of them now. Well, not so many, I guess. It's not been like, of course, we've been doing this a while at this point. And this was I guess it's the 5th. It's the 6th. It's the 6th video. Wow. Yeah. These are always enjoyable for the similar reasons, and I've covered nearly all of them on Digest, I guess. This particular one, I was there for the premiere and then watched it again for the live stream, for Digest at least, and I just wrote down the episodes that like the installments that like I really wanted. It was like, oh, that's great. The Hawaiian Breeze, the first one that Core mentioned. Bronze. So Steve's segments were actually great. I actually really liked what Steve did. It's the same format every time, but I think he had really good banter and talking about like old stuff like this. I don't think he usually ever does on his channel. I think he fit really well with it. Actually, it was just gonna get Steve, kind of throw Steve like some of these like super flamboyant, crazy ones. I think was like really great. If whoever chose those, if it was Steve that chose them or Core gave it to him. I thought it was really, really well chosen for Steve. Actually, he was able to have a lot of material there. I liked his like, like some of this like crazy anime shit that's going on. It was just really funny. Kobe was also really funny. I liked that every single one kind of started the same way with like the anime's title card, and then they throw to Mal and it kind of made similar kind of deal. And yeah, he was just really funny, and then had like a rating at the end sort of deal. They all had like a similar formula, but each one was like kind of uniquely enjoyable based on the content itself. Steven kicked ass. I like that the one was like super informative, and he was able to really deep dive on this particular nothing of a random ass movie, and have some kind of fun banter with it. A lot of historical stuff with that too. And then the Porco Rosso one I thought was a very good choice to just make a kind of elaborate AMV. And I thought the AMV was very eclectic with using clips from the movie with like the dub, basically kind of the audio from it, as well as the song choice. I feel like there may have been multiple songs, or maybe it's one long orchestral song. It's not like a pop tune or something, not like a song kind of deal, which is nice. Yes, I did not miss anybody besides myself and Hayden. Hayden, I think, had a really great segment. It was only one on Midori, but it was made sense that he was the only one that went for that deserves that segment. I mean, he had it on fucking DVD. That's crazy. And the dive on the creator himself, I thought he kind of held back a little bit on how crazy Midori actually is in terms of its graphic material. I mean, yeah, you're able to show like the dog dying and stuff, which is pretty graphic and enough for people to be like, well, that's crazy. I've seen enough kind of deal. But it's incredible OVA. Brutal is really tough to watch for the graphic material for sure. It's a miracle it's fucking on YouTube right now. But I thought Hayden did a really good job talking about like the character is like the director is not nihilist, and this is a very personal work for him, so that thereby the work itself is not nihilist. And I wouldn't even make that argument. I would just say it's not nihilist because it's supposed to be kind of triumphing over adversity. The girl is in a miserable situation, but she really kind of is trying to find her way out of it. And the lack of succeeding she has, right? It's like, oh, why don't you just run away, whatever? Like, that's easier to be said than done for a lot of these people who are in these situations of trauma and abuse. like, where do you go? Where do you go? And so like when this magician person shows up and takes an interest, like they actually form a relationship that's like wholesome and seems good. She's able to actually move out of there with him, and that's her path out of there. Basically, she's otherwise just trapped. And so like her be kind of like overcoming adversity, and like the ending sequence, which Hayden kind of teases at the end. I might be misreading the text, so I apologize. But like from what I remember from watching it, she's able to kind of escape everybody, including the magician, because the magician guy, I think, whatever, I won't spoil, but she's able to basically escape, and there's a sequence of her kind of like fighting off these guys, and once she like there's nothing and she's just there, she just breaks down crying, which is shown in a segment, because like she had to hold all that back. She had to remain tough, because it's like, what was the point? And she would probably just get more abuse if she acted that way. So she's able to finally let it all out. Which is crazy. Really emotionally powerful and cathartic, and like great movie. I actually really like that one. I gave it a great. So anyone should talk in Midori is just like, you don't really get it. I thought Hayden did a very good job really giving you an understanding of where this is coming from, but I think the creator perspective was very smart. And personally, I mean, as someone who contributed like basically two AMVs to this, and some other people had AMVs, including Steven's Porcoroso one, I actually liked Hayden's the most, with the ending of their segment with like the really good music choice, and it just felt so right and so perfect. I just loved that one. But yeah, I actually wrote down here the Hawaiian Breeze, Bronze, the one that Steve did, Elephant that Steven talked about, Weathering Continent, Anime Rakugo Con, Noroi no One Piece, Bazooka, the Nagona Guy one that Steve talked about, which we actually watched after the premiere. Like, Steve just had it, and we were like, yeah, sure, we'll watch it. So we all watched it together. And we're like, oh, that was a thing, huh? And I liked it, but other people was like, I don't know about that. Fair. And I'm just looking at it favorably, I guess. And Seikima to Humane Society, just because of the AMV that Core did as well, for that one, was also really interesting. It was like, wow, that looks cool. Again, I think Core pulling a lot of the weight with this, with how much content he has to talk about, and in such a way that it's not formulaic. Like, he's not doing the same thing over and over. Like, no offense to Kobe, right? But like, Core is constantly coming up with different things to talk about, and different things to different ways of communicating it, and invent. Like, I was happy that the giant robo. I knew he wasn't really a fan of Giant Robo when he saw it for this series, and I didn't really want it to be super kind of like wet blanket over that series, I guess. So I was happy that he was able to find a creative outlet and just do like a rap. I thought that was good, a good choice. But yeah, it's so similar inventiveness and pure hard work from Core's end that kind of goes without saying with these. That always kind of pushes it over of like, yeah, this is easily the best thing out here, unless there's something particularly exceptional about something that comes out. But yeah, usually these top the chart for me. I loved it. Great job, everybody. Looking forward to the next one. As it be. And yeah, thank you for enjoying this installment of AniTube Digest. Thank you also to my patrons, including Austin, Boo, Kuiper, MyAnimePod, Najbeb, Nicholas, Saxon, Unique Namosaurus, Victor, and Yellow Cheese. You guys are great. You have a great week. Yo, peace.